There are over 60,000 people packed in a stadium. Over 100 countries worldwide watching what is going to be the most phenomenal and cataclysmic boxing showdown in world history. In one corner, you have the world heavyweight champion, George Foreman. And in the other corner, you have the former world heavyweight champion, Muhammad Ali. The two questions we want to answer today. Firstly, how did George Foreman, the world heavyweight champion, lose to Muhammad Ali? And secondly, but more importantly, how can we apply this to your winning business strategy in Africa? Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me the courtesy of taking off these gloves. Because you can imagine the inconvenience I'll face if I have to go to the gentleman's bathroom in the middle of the presentation. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Rutendo Hwindingwi, and today I have the privilege of taking you through a journey titled Winning Business in Africa, Rumble in the Jungle Reloaded. In my journey today, I want to leave with you one of 5 key nuggets that I believe will make you successful in doing business in Africa. Nuggets that I've not only gleaned from this most successful and phenomenal fight that happened on African soil between George Foreman and Muhammad Ali in 1974, but also from my experience having worked in Africa for 20 years in 20 different countries, as well as from research that I've done at a PhD level. The nuggets that I want to leave with you today is know the territory. So let us start off by discussing who am I? Who is this young, black, wonderful-looking chap standing in front of you this morning? 20 years of my life, or 10 years of my life, I worked for Sage, as you well know, a listed company on the London Stock Exchange, driving business development at an executive level in Africa, Middle East, and Australia, Asia. I currently work as an associate director for Deloitte, focusing on business development and strategic client growth. I have a Master's of Science in Strategic Management from the University of Derby. Anybody from Derby here? If they were, I wouldn't know them because I did my education by long distance. I have a PhD in International Business Strategy from Witwatersrand, from the University of South Africa. But ladies and gentlemen, my greatest achievement, the one that supersedes all of the above, is that I'm a diehard Chelsea fan. Any Chelsea supporters here?
No.
Okay. God bless you. So why am I here this morning? Without a shadow of a doubt, I believe one thing. Africa is open for business like never before. So let us set the scene of this exciting fight. Because by setting the scene, we lay the foundation to understand the nugget that I want to leave with you today. In 1974, George Foreman was the world boxing champion. He was young, he was arrogant, and he was undefeated. He represents the multinational, the big corporate, whose strategies have been successful in Europe and in North America. And for them coming to Africa is a walk in the park. Muhammad Ali in 1974 was no longer the world boxing champion. In fact, he was trying to regain that title. He represents the multinational big corporate that is not as well financed and resourced as the market leader, but is striving to come into Africa and fight for that same piece of space. He was the gentleman who coined the phrase, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. It shows your age. He represents the underdog. The location of the fight was in even a more unique space. It was smack bang right in the middle of Africa, in a city called Kinshasa, in a country called Zaire, the present-day DRC. The world had never seen a fight of this magnitude in a place like this before. The fighters had never fought in a place like this before. The smells were different, the culture was different, the people was different. And that's the thing about Africa. As much as there's opportunity, there's also uncertainty. To spice the fight even further was this gentleman, the dictator of Zaire, Mobutu Sese Seko, who in 1974 injected 10 million US dollars cash of his own money into the fight. Well, we can't really say it was his own money because he was a dictator, but that's a discussion for another day. But again, there's Africa for you. Opportunity, risk, uncertainty, and predictability. All of these key ingredients of a wonderful recipe of success if just cooked right. So let us look into this nugget a bit further in terms of knowing the territory and what it means. 1974, when Muhammad Ali, for the sake of the fight, he flew in a few weeks earlier than George Foreman. And by doing this, it allowed him to interact and engage with the people of Zaire to such an extent that on the day of the fight, as the underdog, Muhammad Ali strode into the boxing ring in a stadium packed with over 60,000 people. The crowd was cheering, Ali Boumaye! Ali Boumaye! Which, when you translate it from the vernacular, it means Ali, kill him. Ali, kill him. So in other words, before the fight had even begun, the underdog had won the crowd. The underdog had won market share. George Foreman, on the other hand, didn't interact and engage with the people of Zaire to the same extent. So to such an extent that when he, the world boxing champion, strode on the ring, before the fight had even begun, he had lost the crowd. He had lost market share. For you to be successful in the African continent, you have to have an understanding of the fabric of the society, the DNA of its people. That will give you the competitive edge. Africa as a continent is humongous. USA, China, India, geographically at the same time, can fit on the African continent. To complicate things even further, there are 54 countries on the continent, making it a nightmare of navigation for you to totally understand the continent with its challenges. But there's a saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. When you look at the African continent, through what lens do you look at it with? A snapshot survey was done by Google in 2015, in which they wanted to highlight the most searched items per country at a specific point in time. For you and I sitting in the upmarket parts of London today, would assume that the most searched items would be luxury issues, like cell phones, cars, you name it. The raw data from Google showed otherwise. In Egypt, for example, the most searched item was the camel. In South Africa, the most searched item was a cow. Not cows for milk or meat, but specifically for bridal price, or what we call in South Africa, lobola. In Nigeria, the most searched item was a wedding. I don't know if any of you have been to a Nigerian wedding, but it's one big fat party. And in Kenya, the most searched item was a safari. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. When you look at the African continent, through what lens do you look at it with? I'm going to take you through a multinational case study now, based on my own experience having worked on the African continent, and to give you more in-depth perspective with regards to understanding the nugget that I want to leave with you today. In 2010, I was part of the Business Development Exco, or executive team, tasked with driving business specifically in the Nigerian market. I was working for Sage at the time in the EMEA office based in Johannesburg, South Africa. Sage at the time was a multinational, or is currently a multinational listed on the London Stock Exchange. We had about 3 million customers worldwide. We're operating in 50 different countries. Gartner, one of the leading research technology companies in the world, grouped us as one of the top 3 business management software companies in the world next to SAP and Oracle. We're doing about $1.3 billion of turnover per annum and growing at about 6% year on year. We were one of the George Foremans when it came to our industry. Nigeria at the time was the second biggest economy in Africa with a huge population. And we were specifically driving into that market a product that was targeted for the small startup businesses. The retail product for that software, which was sold as a CD or as a compact disc, was $100 US. We were so aggressive in wanting to gain market share, we discounted it by 70% to $30 US per CD. After a period of flights, money, investments, capital, you name it, what was our return on investment? It was close to nothing. We were flabbergasted. Why were we, one of the top 3 business management software companies in the world, battling to grow in the Nigerian market or the West African market? We'd been successful in the same strategy in Europe, in North America, and even Southern Africa. Why were we battling with the second biggest economy in Africa? As the person leading the initiative, I was frustrated to the hilt. It was only on one of my trips down there that my colleague took me aside and he said to me, Rutendo, I think I know why you are battling in this economy. I want you to follow me, but don't say anything. He was politely telling me to shut up and follow him. So I did. He took me to this informal market. It's on the outskirts of the Nigerian market. It's called the Nigerian airport. It's called the Computer Village. They sell all sorts of wares there, from electronic gadgets to cell phones, you name it. The size of the area is no bigger than a football stadium. We waded through the crowd and we got to one gentleman who had a suitcase stacked with CDs. He approached the man and said, Sir, please may I have one Sage CD? Without any hesitation, the gentleman dipped into his bag and pulled out a CD. And then he said to him, how much for that one CD? And again, without any hesitation, the gentleman said, I'll sell it to you for $1, but I'm negotiable on pricing. The same product that we're pushing on the market after a discount of 70% was being sold on the streets of Nigeria for $1, but he was negotiable on pricing. That was the first thing that blew me away. I then went and researched on the Computer Village. Bear in mind, it was the size of a football stadium. It was estimated that there were 7,000 entrepreneurs selling their wares in that marketplace. Those 7,000 entrepreneurs amongst themselves employed about 50,000 people. But the statistic that blew me away, the estimated revenue going through that informal market per year was $2 billion. Sage, a company listed on the London Stock Exchange, been around for 30 years, 3 million customers worldwide in over 50 countries, was doing a turnover of $1.3 billion. We've been outstripped by this informal market by 0.7 billion. We understood the territory, we realized we had to change our strategy. We began to focus on the mid-market and the multinationals because of the legislation that they were forced to use, where they had to use non-pirated software. We saw tremendous success from that, and we saw enterprise digits going to the triple-digit number. For you to be successful in Africa, you have to know your territory. I'll end with this. Last month, a UK business forum, a UK Africa business forum was held in Cape Town, South Africa. At that event, your very own Prime Minister, Theresa May, came to open up the session. And I was allowed to talk and give the keynote on doing business in Africa. I obviously made a few friends from that event, namely the Secretary of State for Wales, the Right Honourable Alan Keynes MP, and Charles Bowman, the Lord Mayor of England, of London. David Schwimmer, the CEO of the London Stock Exchange. Emma Wade-Smith, the UK Trade Commissioner for Africa, and Andrew Selous, the PM's Trade Envoy for South Africa. And Nigel Casey, the British High Commissioner. Just in case you're battling to pick me out from the pictures, I'm the one with the bow tie. But all these men and women agreed on one thing, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is open for business. In fact, it has never been closed. The question is your business strategy ready for Africa? Thank you.